Hey guys, it's Max at Mahalo Video Games, and give yourself a round of applause because we just defeated Trench. Yes, we defeated all the alien tubes and Farnsworth, and I am hoping you are feeling a sense of accomplishment, because you should. Um, so this is my final impression, and I am just going to base it on three different criteria. The first criteria being story, the second criteria design, which is just the general aesthetic of the look itself, and the game, and then third, which is gameplay. So, story. Love the story. It had everything that I liked. You know, it had space aliens, it had mechs, it had World War II elements, you know, kind of like that dusty, war-y steampunk sort of deal where it's kind of like grunge and, you know, the boat had legs and giant cannons and stuff. Wait, actually that's more of a design thing, but anyway, a part of that story is the whole fighting against the aliens. It was enjoyable. There was a bunch of crude jokes in there, which as an immature child, I love. I'm sure most children out there would love it too. And Double Fine is usually oriented from young teens to, well, everybody else, essentially. But it's for everyone. It's an E game. And this has, you know, some mild adult themes, but only slightly, so it's still PC in that way that parents love. In terms of themes, I would have to say the whole underdog trying to fight against the undominable army. I love stories like that because it allows you to really come to grips with the character, really relate, I guess, to a personal level. You want the character to, you know, beat everything. You want Woodruff to beat Farnsworth because, you know, Woodruff is this sort of like all-American hero, and his last hurrah is to defend mankind from this alien abomination. So that's awesome. I love the story. Double Fine has no problem with the story, so I give that a 10. Second criteria, which is design, which is the, like I said before, the general look of the game. And Double Fine games never have a problem with aesthetic because it seems like they put a lot of detail into making everything, you know, the way that make everything fit together in this really nice cohesive bubble of creativity. And this game I liked in terms of design was the theme of, you know, like old comic books essentially, or old magazine articles, but to me it was more like those war hero comics, like OG Captain America, when it was like him fighting Nazis and it was current, and you know, that's great. I love stuff like that. And in terms of the design of everything, like the trenches, I liked how the trenches were these kind of crude, American-made, with a bunch of like bolts and unnecessary things, kind of bulky, a little hard to deal with, and the tubes were almost completely alien. They were more organic than they were mechanical. So, you know, and that weird energy, which I guess was the signal. And apparently there's a goal in the background. Good for us. Anyway, back to it. We are talking about the design aesthetic, I believe, or I've forgotten. I don't know. I have no short-term memory at all. But anyway, the design aesthetic, you know, the tubes were really organic, and they seemed like aliens. They fit the theme of what they were. They were these kind of strange organisms that Farnsworth was able to conceive and create because of the signal. So it really showed that separation of it not just being a man, but also being some foreign entity from space. Also, you know, they have really great colors, dynamic. The fact that they actually had weapons that you could change and the physical appearance would change in the models themselves, that was great. The fact that things change when you equip them as different individual items I love when games do that. I'm sure a lot of people do too, just because of this need to personalize everything we do. And in every game, I always want that to happen. I'm always like, if we get an item, I want to see the item on the character. Or if I get a new weapon, I want to cleave through enemies with a great broadsword that has spikes and, shoots bullets and teeth come out, shoots blood out of its eye or whatever. It's great. I like things like that. So in terms of design, I have no complaints, but I also knew that Double Fine was very good at their aesthetic. So I give that a 10. No complaints. So in terms of gameplay though, I would have to say there was sort of this imbalance between using weapons and emplacement. And in the beginning, I started to see it because you still have your 3 chassis, which is your standard, your standard light or standard engineering and assault. And I understand what each one of those do, but the standards didn't really come as standard. There was usually only 2 emplacements that you could put, or 2 or 3, but none of them were useful together. You weren't able to use heavy weapons and have a heavy emplacement at the same time. And I'm not saying that it should be a broadcaster or an artillery weapon. But at the same time, I felt like there needed to be that nice balance in between the emplacements of weapons, which I just didn't find. Even at endgame, when I had all full ranks and the best items that I could possibly get at that point, it just seemed like there still wasn't that balance. No matter how powerful I got, the enemy was always that much more powerful. So if getting gold is a goal of the game, it's almost impossible to do because the balance just isn't there. There should still be that potential of being able to shoot everything and at the same time defend everything to the point where you can get gold, but that just seemed impossible. Also, so there were some overpowered enemies. I thought, for instance, the Johnnies, every time a Johnny wave came over and you tried to use your emplacements as a way to defend your base, it always seemed that the Johnnies would just use the smaller units that it was protecting to block any attack whatsoever. So they just slipped past your defenses. Even if you have a dozen mines and a dozen snipers, it didn't matter. They just slipped through and hit your base, and that was it. There was nothing you could do about it. And I believe that is also part of the balance problem. There's more heavies and more heavies comparatively to, with heavies and like mid-heavy weapons such as a grenade launcher, then it would be wonderful. But it wasn't like that. Also, the volt droppers, it seemed like you only have a very small window to shoot them down, and then there was this one level where there was like 3 of them, and your machine gun doesn't really work. The only thing that does work is your sniper rifle, but you can't equip the sniper rifle and have heavy armor at the same time. So that means that there is this disparity where you have to focus on ground enemies or air enemies. And in the beginning, it didn't really matter, but at the end of the game, it became a substantial imbalance between the two. So that's my only complaint about this game. I would have to say the movement controls were a little clunky. You had to try to defend your base and at the same time get certain enemies that were a danger to your turrets, and those burst guys, the burst transmitters, they were just overpowered too, because they kept taking out turrets in 2 hits instead of it being like 3 or 4, when you actually had a chance to defend yourself. So I thought that was a bit unfair. Not really a complaint, because you could pretty much take them out. But then when you had those and the Johnnies, there was almost nothing you could do until you took out the Johnnies that were protected by the bursts. So I would have to give the gameplay a 7.5 towards a high 8. I suggest you play the game if you like Double Fine or if you like castle defense shooters. It is an interesting genre because then you have to do footwork and at the same time strategize to place things in um, strategic areas. So that is my final impression. Hopefully you enjoyed the walkthrough. Please request any sort of game you want us to play that you might think that other people are interested in, or anything like that. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my Twitter, varistrants at twitter.com, and other great videos are coming, so do not just dismiss this as being the last one you'll ever see. Alright guys, keep on gaming, and I will see you soon.